I've deleted all my social media. I just come to Reddit sometimes and YouTube with distraction-free extension. No feed, comments, just search. I'm struggling with FOMO. What can I do? Well, listen up, fellow self-improvementer. This was a very nice post, so today we're going to talk about it and tell you what has helped us in the past. Let's get right into it.
I remember quitting social media, I think it was about 2 years ago. Social media is pretty much like a really addictive drug. So if you experience something like FOMO, you can pretty much view it as a withdrawal symptom. And well, the only way to get over a withdrawal symptom is kind of just to wait until it goes away. And that was the same experience with me. I remember after I quit, my FOMO was super high, but I just tried to keep going. I just tried to keep reminding myself why I quit, and eventually it got a lot better. Eventually you'll reach this golden point where you realize, wow, okay, none of it really mattered. So I promise you, my fellow self-improvementers, you just have to be patient and it will pay out eventually. Trust me. Thinking back, I actually wish I journaled more back then. See, it was actually only the beginning of my self-improvement journey, so I wasn't really that consistent with journaling. Thinking back, this is really a phase where you're going through so many processes. Your brain is really having all these different thoughts and you're really making so much progress. So it would have made a lot of sense to actually use this moment to do a lot of self-reflection. And I think I could have learned so much more about my own brain, my own psyche, if I just journal about all this. Because think about it. Some sort of addiction and you journal about everything that's going on in your head. And eventually you get over that. You'll have a perfect roadmap of how you quit your own addictions, perfectly tailored to your own brain, just written down in there, and that could have helped so much more. So I really urge you guys to try this out. I think it's going to really pay off.
Definitely. Yeah, so it's not an easy task, right? But once you've quit social media, you're going to realize that you have a lot of time. See, you probably have the average screen time duration on Instagram, which is probably like 2 hours or something. Whoa, that is one squeaky microphone. Back when I quit Instagram, I never had an outrageous screen time on there. It was always like an hour or something on Instagram, maybe an hour on, I don't know, all these other social media apps in total. It was never outrageous, but once you quit, you realize just how much time you have in your day. Instead of picking up your phone on all these small breaks whenever your PC is taking a bit longer to load or something, you just simply sit down or do something productive with your time instead of wasting 5 minutes every time a minor inconvenience hits your day, right? You want to spend this time very productively, wisely. You can either use it to do something, a project that you're working on, some work, or actually next up would be meeting some friends. See, when you're not on social media, you probably have FOMO because you're not meeting your friends. You're not seeing your friends online anymore, you're not seeing what they're doing on the weekends and so on. But you gotta realize, this is completely stupid. You wouldn't have gone to those parties anyway. It was all just digital. It was all virtual. Instead, now that you've got all this free time, you can actually go out there and meet those friends, right? Very important though, you gotta be the initiator. From personal experience, we can both say that people are basically inherently lazy. Everyone really wants this one fun, confident person to just come up to them and ask them, hey, are you doing something on the weekend? I got a great idea. I want to do this and that. Do you want to come with? People don't do this, especially because they're still stuck inside social media, right? You probably wouldn't have FOMO if all your friends weren't on the app. So you really got to be the initiator here. You got to be the one asking your friends, hey, do you want to do something on the weekend? It is your job. You're the one that has evolved and gotten away from social media. Also, you want to go to events. A lot of the time when you're on social media, you see these great events like festivals, people going clubbing and so on. This is great. It's fun to look at. And it kind of stimulates to your brain that you're actually going to those places because that's how your brain works. It can't really differentiate between something that's on your phone screen and something that you're actually attending. So instead what you want to do is find these events. See, when Lewis and I quit social media, we basically didn't have the apps on our phone at all for a couple of months. And we started doing some fun stuff, going to events like meditating with Buddhists, going to yoga, hitting on some mums, going out there, beating some buns in Tesco's and so on. It was great fun. We just started living our lives a lot more in this real world. Very, very great. You're gonna regain your life and you're gonna realize that you're gonna live a lot more in the moment. See, a lot of people actually have this fear where they constantly have to take out their phone and film whatever they're doing to post it on social media, right? I don't know if you have this because it's kind of a girly thing to do. However, people generally have this. You're going to be a lot more present now that you don't have this fear, right? There's one downside to this. You know, Lewis and I, we used to actually take a lot of videos back in the days. Post them or not post them, it didn't really matter. We just wanted to have them on our phones. But now we noticed that over the last year, we didn't make many Snapchat memories. There's not many videos in there, not that much visual content. It's nice to live in the moment, but that's one thing you gotta keep in mind. You will have less visual memory of whatever you were doing.
Yeah, it's definitely true. There are certain downsides when it comes to quitting social media. But I mean, eventually you might, once you've quit the addiction, eventually you might come to a point where you can still have social media in your life, but it just won't control you anymore. I don't know how long your screen time is on Instagram or whatever social media app you used to use, but you probably have a lot more time now. Maybe you gained another hour or two, and this is a perfect opportunity to work on your own passion project, to work on chasing your own goals, because, well, it's going to make you forget this sort of FOMO a lot more, and you're going to be so much more productive. It's going to make you feel so much better and not as lonely when you were always on social media, seeing other people have fun. And that brings me to the next point, because one thing that really helped me is always reminding myself of why I quit. See, this is something that helps with every single addiction pretty much. Just whenever you have the temptation to go back, you need to remind yourself why this was bad for you. So for me, I don't know, maybe you have some different reasons, but for me it was, well, first of all, the fact that it took so much time away from me and I couldn't be as productive. And second of all, it just kind of fried my brain. It fried my attention span. I couldn't do any boring things like meditating or reading because I always needed this sort of stimulation, and it just really messed with my mind and messed with my dopamine receptors. So I don't want to go back to that. So another thing is also it just makes you kind of depressed. See, you always see other people having fun, they're living their very best lives, and you don't realize that this is only a side of them. You don't realize that their lives are just as boring as yours, but it makes you feel that way. And to make it even worse, you see all these different conflicting political opinions, you see all these discussions, all these bad news, and it just puts you in such a bad mood. I don't know if you've ever seen the movie called The Social Dilemma before. It's actually a movie on Netflix, and it pretty much explains how social media operates, the whole mechanism behind it, and what it teaches you is that you are pretty much the product. See, they need to make money off something since they're free, so usually your attention is what is being sold. So you need to see, well, they've got the best researchers, and they want to make you as addicted as possible because that's how they make money. So you need to be super aware of the fact that you're not actually having fun when you're on social media. You're only addicted to the stuff because it's supposed to be designed that way. And once you become aware of this, once you become aware of all these patterns in your mind, well, you can finally break free. You can finally say, oh shit. Oh wow, I can't stop because of this. Okay, let me just quickly stop because I'm getting hooked by this. It's very important to be super intentional. And that actually brings me to the next point, because once you break free of this, you can be so much more intentional. You can still use social media if you want, but whenever you use it because you actually want to. See, me and Jacob, we actually use social media again every once in a while. Now, whether this is posting something on Instagram because we actually want to, replying to a DM, or maybe researching something on Reddit, or obviously using YouTube because we post on YouTube, it can always be leveraged for something more important because, well, that's what these tools were designed for. But you just need to be aware of the fact that you need to use them and make sure they don't use you. And I think once we become aware of that, there's a great future for social media if we just use it in the right way and don't give all the power to them and let them control us.
If you enjoyed this banging episode of Pablo's Pill, you might like this one as well. We'll see you there.